Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Finance and Governance Committee meeting on Wednesday, the 11th of June. I was about to read the minutes of the last meeting, which be bizarre. It's not the end of April, it is definitely June out there. Welcome councillors, officers, and anyone watching online or watching this back. Thank you. I'm sat in the chair because I was the chairman in last year's committee, and our first job is to elect a chairman for this year.
Confirm the chairman.
To confirm the chairman this year, so thank you. Much appreciated. So how do we do that?
Just ask the nominations, Chair.
Yes, councillor Bell.
I would like to nominate councillor Sybil
Thank you
to
very
take
much.
on the role once more.
Second.
Thank you, councillor Dickinson. Councillors, you do have your names the wrong way around today.
I'll do it.
Work out which of you is Peter and Joe. I don't think it's a deal breaker. Thank you very much. I'd be happy to do it again. Yeah, I'm getting there. Thank you for. Any other nominations? And I declare myself duly crowned Emperor of. No, perhaps we should vote. Votes for me. Isn't bizarre. Thank you very much. Thank you all, much appreciated. Item 2 then is the election of a vice chair. I think I've got the hang of it now. Any nominations, please? Councillor Furman.
I'd like to nominate councillor David Norman.
Thank you. Anyone like to second? Councillor Bell, thank you very much. Any other nominations?
Nominate councillor Thomas
Was Thomas.
Taylor.
Got the gist.
Was Welsh name out?
I quite like councillor Thomas as well, but I think I'll nominate councillor Thomas Taylor.
Nominate Councillor Taylor, who is present this evening. Yeah, okay, excellent. Anyone like to second Councillor Taylor? Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Any other nominations? No, in which case. First votes for Councillor Northam,
Just 5.
votes for Councillor Taylor,
That is 4, Chair.
abstentions. Excellent, so it's Councillor Northam elected. Thank you very much. Come on down.
Oh.
Job already. It's not unlike Flay Your Cards, right? Do I want one? Apologies. No, thank you very much. Before we carry on with the rest of the agenda, I would like to pay a tribute to a local resident that died last week. So, please, in my role as a councillor, chair of this committee, I hope I can speak for the council in some small way, but a tribute to Janet Stockley. I was very saddened to learn late last week that Janet Stockley, the founder of WOW and driving force throughout its 40+ years, had passed away on Wednesday of last week. I'd like to take this opportunity to pay tribute to a fantastic woman who gave so much to our town, surrounding area and young people. For those not familiar with the Weymouth Operatic Workshop, or WOW as it's often known, it's a fantastic Weymouth-based youth group born of what is now Wessex Musical Theatre, or what was once the Operatic Society, introducing so many youngsters to a world of theatre, musicals, drama and dance. Like so many hundreds, if not thousands of local children over the years, I was very fortunate to be a member of WOW back in the 90s. That may not be a surprise to some of you. Having seen a superb production of Grease a couple of years before, I successfully navigated the audition process in 1992. It surely helps that a show like Oliver needs lots of young gutter snipes. The friends I made in that production, well over 30 years ago now, have been lifelong, and the skills and sense of camaraderie of that period have likewise stayed with me. This has undoubtedly been the case for so many others. So many people have found a career in the performing arts, whether on stage in the West End, in musical direction, on television and in film, leading their own youth theatre groups, producing, directing, choreographing, or simply reflecting on how much fun they had in an environment away from their schools and the classroom. One of Janet and Wow's many success stories, if you will, is Jamie Chapman, who grew up in Chapel Hay and now works professionally as an actor on stage and screen. He kindly agreed for me to share the words he wrote on hearing the news of Janet's passing. The hours Janet devoted to Wow simply cannot be quantified, and devoted really is the word. Janet was utterly, totally, all-consumingly devoted to Wow and to the kids in it. The young lives she changed, the future she shaped. How Janet wasn't awarded an MBE is quite beyond me. No one could have been more deserving. Unique is a hopelessly overused word, but Janet was a genuinely unique person, driven and talented and passionately committed. She was as hot-tempered as she was kind-hearted, and she was great fun. Most of all, Janet was a life force, so much so I can't quite think of her as not being alive. But what a legacy she leaves. I and so many others owe her a debt of gratitude. She gave many of us our start and helped us on our way, and she carried on caring. She was one of a kind. Janet's husband John passed away in February 2022, and my thoughts are very much with their children Zoe and Matt. I hope they can take some comfort in this heartfelt recognition of their mum's phenomenal legacy. We will miss her very much. Thank you all.
Thank you, Matt.
Back to the agenda, item 3 is apologies for absence and substitutions. I think we're all here. Nobody has substituted, other than a couple of name badges the wrong way and people having 2 first names. But other than that, we're all good. Any declarations of interest, councillors? No. None there. Thank you very much. Item 5, which hopefully you've all had the opportunity to read, are the minutes of the last meeting held on the 30th of April. The recommendation is that we agree the minutes of the last meeting as a true and accurate record, and that I sign them as such. I'm happy to propose them. Councillor Bell, thank you very much for seconding them. Votes for?
That is 9-8.
Okay, should we have another go? Votes for? Nice and high. 8. Thank you. Votes against? Abstentions? 2. Thank you very much. Excellent. Councillor questions. I'm not aware of any pre-notified. Is there anything anyone would like to ask of the officers? No, thank you very much. There are no members of public here, and we have no pre-notified questions there. Any latecomers? No. So we will move on to item 8, the internal audit report, which the Deputy Town Clerk will introduce for us.
Thank you, Chair. So members will be seeing the agenda and would appreciate that the next sort of 4 items all relate to a year end in the process, which we have to go through to get these documents approved. They have to be taken individually. And you guys are very fortunate because you'll get to hear this speech twice, once here, and the second time is when we go to full council. So for that. The first part of the annual governance return is the internal audit report. Members who are on this committee and actually full council will recall that we appointed the internal auditors back in November, where we ensured that they were independent, competent, and there were no conflicts of interest. One of the advantages of our internal audit here is that they are actually from outside the organisation. They're not an independent appraisal function from within. So we can get some assurance that they are independent away from what we do on a day-to-day basis. So the auditor has visited us in December and again in May, undertook his testing, and you'll see that there's 2 separate documents within the agenda which we've sent forward for you to look at. The first one is what's on the screen now, which is a report which is produced by the internal auditor. There's obviously observations within there. There are references to good practice that we undertake. But I think the main thing to come out of that is that no issues which have been identified, which he has recommended as corrective action. So there's no decisions to make in terms of making those recommendations of what we need to do to full council. It's just to note the contents of that report. And the second part of it is the actual one which is on screen now, which does form part of the annual return which we send to our external auditors, and it highlights those internal control objectives within it. And the internal auditor has tested throughout there and has agreed that we comply with all of those control measures. So we're just asking that the internal auditor's reports are noted, Chair, and then they will go forward to full council for them to consider in 3 weeks' time, 2 weeks' time.
Okay. Anyone like to speak to that item at all?
No change.
Madam Chair,
You may.
thank you. I note in the, there's a reference to the practitioner guide, it mentions that there's an IT policy required. I'd just like confirmation that that's an IT policy relating to financial accounting only.
I can't give you that confirmation because I believe it's across the whole of the authority with all of its IT things. It's a new requirement which is going to be introduced next year, which the external auditors are asking us to do. And that will look at an IT policy across all of the authority, not just the financial side. So email addresses. I think what members will sort of be aware of is when we look at these specific items, they cover councils from the smallest to the largest. So there are some control things within the smaller councils which you could probably see an IT policy protect them. We've probably got most of that in place already. But it's just to make us aware that that will be a requirement external auditors will be asking us to fulfill next year.
Thank you. My nervousness was how IT policies can grow and get out of control by getting too broad. So yeah, I'm sure we will address that. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? No, simply go to vote on that. We consider it noted.
It might be worth just checking in.
Okay, and I'm happy to propose that it is noted and that we recommend it be taken to full council. Thank you, councillor O'Leary. Second votes for. Thank you very much. Thank you. Excellent. Item 9, which our deputy town clerk will also introduce, relates to the approval of the annual governance statement.
Chair. So this is the next part of the return which we need to consider, and it involves the public officer, the town clerk, and myself, and Jermaine going through these assertions which are listed within this document to make sure that the control environment that we operate within, we have assurances that it's fit for purpose. And we take some assurance as well because the internal auditor has actually looked at our controls as well. So we've got that backup of not just us saying it, the internal auditor saying it as well. Within there, you'll see that they've got the assertions which we have to consider and what we need to be confident we have in place to tick a yes. Which again, we have done so, and we have found no issue that we need to bring to members' attention. So we're asking you to recommend that the annual governance statement goes to full council.
Okay, that looks relatively straightforward to me. Anybody like to speak to that? I will propose that we recommend that to full council. I'd like to second that. Thank you, councillor Bell. Votes for.
Unanimous.
Thank you very much. Item 10, our third approval, this time of the accounting statement.
So the accounting statements, Chair, are those which are on the screen now. I say this every year for those of you who are up the road and look at their statement of accounts, which goes into the hundreds of pages. Ours consists of one page, which seems quite simplistic, and I would not agree with that. But again, it complies with those smaller councils all the way up to us. Just a bit of background I have. I think that the governing bodies are reviewing that with the bigger authorities to see if actually we need to do something different. But this is what we need to complete for this year. So again, the figures comes from our financial system. It has been audited by an internal auditor to make sure that the figures read back. And there's nothing which they needed to raise to say that they are inaccurate or misstated. So they are the figures, Chair, and again, we just need those to be agreed so that they can go to full council for sign.
Okay. Would anyone like to speak to this one? Councillor Morgan? No. No. Okay, so item 1 is that we
Excuse me, actually.
No, you're okay. So part one here is that we do them together. You suggesting? Well, first of all, it's probably easiest to do them separately. So item one, I propose that we, as a committee, recommend to full council that the council approves the annual accounts and statements for the financial year ending 31st of March this year. And that the annual statements be signed by the chairperson of the full council meeting. Anyone like to second that? Thank you, Thomas, much appreciated. Votes for?
That is unanimous, Chair.
Thanks.
Just make a comment on the second one.
Please do.
So the second part, Chair, is around our requirement to publish the notice of public rights, which gives members of the public 30 days to request to come into the organisation in inspect our records. We are proposing that the announcement date is the 27th of June, and the dates for inspection run from the 30th of June through to the 8th of August.
Okay. In which case I propose that those dates, we get propose those dates and happens to second that. Thank you, councillor O'Leary. Votes for?
It is unanimous, Chair.
Thank you all very much. Much appreciated. Item 11, the financial outturn.
Okay, so this is the culmination of all of the previous documents, if you like, and it will it notifies council and gives details of the final outturn position. The members will note that we were predicting at the end of quarter three around 210,000 underspend. We ended up around 240, which is not something which we are worried about. Is not significantly different. We'd worry if we were predicting an underspend of 200 and it turned out to be an overspend, Chair. But what it proves up to a point is our predicting has been okay, and we haven't had any surprises come the year end. So there's a number of things we need to do for this. Is to note the underspend of 245,000 and a bit.
Yes.
We also need to have a look at the reserves and recommend any changes. And members will note within the report, I've recommended a few changes for reserves which have been used now when they have balances on to return then those balances back to unallocated, and ask members if they would like to make any other recommendations for changes of the existing reserves as well.
Okay. That's right, David.
Yeah, Chairman, let's make a sort of cheeky comment that money would go a long way to funding a new skate park for Livermore, because it's similar to the cost we sort of thought it could cover, and so that's just the comment I'd like to make.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Man,
You know.
yep, I wrote being new to this game, thank you, on the committee. I had a couple of queries around how it all came together. Thank you for the Ian for answering those questions. I thought the suggestions that were in there were really tidying up residual values, and that's all very sensible. I did note that the Tumbledown reserve is fully spent, and that in many respects that Tumbledown reserve has been spent on creating the asset that is now Tumbledown as an asset value. No asset values have increased along with the Radical Park and Gardens work. So I wondered, and I'm not quite sure on the process of this, whether a reserve would be necessary for any unforeseen events at Tumbledown arising out of the new arrangements.
Yes, please.
I suppose a simple answer to that, Councillor Northern, is that members will be aware that we are looking at the priorities and the projects going forwards within the next couple of weeks. That will be an area that councillors may wish to consider to see if it is an area which they may want to support, and if such, then obviously they can recommend that an allocation from the underspends could be made to support them.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, that we deal with everything in one go,
Yeah.
rather than.
Happy, thank you.
No, thank you. Councillor Noble. In which case, I propose that we, the three items, one, firstly, note the draft outturn position for the last financial year of an underspend of £241,865. Secondly, that we recommend that the balances on the reserves highlighted in the report are returned to the general and allocated reserve, which we will then discuss at full council meeting in a couple of weeks. And three, that we consider the existing list of reserves, which is Appendix H, and recommend to full council any changes in the allocation of reserves that have previously been agreed. Would anyone like to reword that or ideally second it? Please. Would anyone like to second? Thank you, councillor Byrne, much appreciated. Votes for?
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. Item 12 is the petitions policy review.
Okay, Chair. So this is a review which the town clerk has undertaken, and you will see where attached to the agenda, the proposed new policy. If members would like to make any changes here, then we can incorporate that when it goes to full council, or if no changes are recommended, then we just recommend that it goes to full council for adoption.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor O'Leary.
Yeah, what I think would be a good thing for people that want to petition is if we actually provided a template for a petition. So actually showed the people wanting to do a petition what we expect from them in order to make it valid. Because it can be a bit, especially DC's petition in the past, a bit flaky in terms of what it wants. Does it accept change? Was it change.org? Things like that. So I don't know if we could offer, sorry.
But it is a relative, with due respect, a relatively basic template.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that but does it necessarily need
It's
reinventing?
not just that though, it's also cover thing for GDPR and things like that, because if you're going around doing an old fashioned paper petition. And you'll get people to put their details in, you've got a copy of that, and you then should have a cover thing, what's on one, sorry.
Could you ask if I could be given thousands of pounds?
Yeah.
Is your third wish? No, point, they're good points, councillor O'Leary, you're quite right. Councillor Fern.
On that point, on that point, we've changed org and stuff like that. What is our position on petitions
DC
versus paper petition?
We don't specifically refer to it in this item, do we?
So for follow up, does that mean we do accept it or don't? Because that's an example, isn't it? And I just would.
Can we agree as a committee that we think we should?
Providing it contains the same. I don't know how an petition, sorry, Chairman. Can I-
No, do carry on, councillor.
I don't understand how when, I've been on the other side of the petition, I've never been on this side in terms of accepting one. I don't know what comes through. I don't know what you get through.
I'm just
Sorry, I'm not the chairman.
Councillor.
No, I'm not the chairman. Sorry.
Hold on a second. Thank you for a very good point, councillor Weller. I did see you.
No, let them continue with that discussion because
Okay.
mine's a little different.
Thank you, councillor Buff.
So when you're on change.org, essentially you can print off an Excel spreadsheet, so it'll come up with the same data as that, broadly speaking. So it'll be name, residents. I think under the DC rules, it can be if they work in the council area as well.
Yeah.
So you have that come up. When the car parking one was done, they accepted that printout essentially. And then the process was, again, to the Dorset Council, they went through checking who counted, who was valid against the criteria. So point 4 on the policy, signatories to the petitions will only be considered valid if they're a resident within the area covered by Weymouth Town Council. So that's kind of covered there, I would say. And it's still a petition with the same information, would be my view.
Yeah. We don't do work in the Weymouth Council area, do we? Sorry, we don't have the work in the Weymouth Council area, is my understanding, do we? We just have live.
Not according to.
No, carry on. And it's
Not according to point 4. Point 4 says residents within the area. Yeah.
Okay, so
mentioning the petitions in that bit there.
I've said the wrong thought, councillor.
Okay. But the town clerk will determine if non-resident signatures are appropriate. We might need a little guidance as to what might be considered appropriate.
Should we be recommending, sorry, Chair, but should we be, if this committee agrees, should we be recommending that if they work in this area but live outside, that their name should be included? And I'll carry on with my other 2 points and then you can.
Yes, yes.
If that's okay. If we're accepting both a paper petition and an e-petition, I'm sure we would, but we need to absolutely ensure that the wording on both petitions is absolutely the same.
Yes, agree.
So there's no misunderstanding there. And my final point, and the one that I was going to make was, do we think that 50 signatures is a sufficient number to trigger a debate? Because that seems, I don't know. I mean, you may feel that if 5 people want to debate about something, that's absolutely fine. But 50 people seems to me like, for a population of our size, 50 people seems like rather few, because we could be debating,
Yeah.
the dogs, for example, the dog laws. We could be debating that absolutely every year if they only need 50 signatures. And it takes hours, and rewriting the policy every year would take so much of our officer time. We might feel that we've shot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah, less than 1,000th of the residents. And that's if you only count the resident. Yeah, is a very good point. Do you have a suggestion as to what that number might be?
Well, I think it needs to be more than 50.
Any advance? No, thank you, councillor Bell. Go me just a second, councillor Dickinson, councillor Bell.
I think Ian was on the same wavelength I was. Just to so if I can just clarify something from the past, for some reason, my point 4 on the agenda item on the policy I was sent is the same as your point 3.
Okay.
Saying about the resident. I don't know why there's that difference between what I've got on my screen and yours, but it was the same point.
Yeah.
That was the bit I was going to refer to that's up there now. So if we've got these categories essentially, is my understanding. So between 50 and 499, best course of action will be considered by the officers, I think is how that reads. So there's sort of 2 categories within the numbers of signatories.
I feel that we want to eliminate as much argy-bargy as it were, really. People need to know very, very clearly, if we want it to be debated, we need to have at least that many. Whether we think it's a good subject to be debated or not, it can't really be a discretionary thing, because then if it's something that we feel very strongly about, we can say, oh yeah, 10 people think we should discuss this, or 50 people think we should discuss this. Whereas if it's 499 people and we don't want to discuss it, we can say, no, we don't think we should. It shouldn't be discretionary.
Okay.
That's a bit iffy, isn't it?
I think as it's written at the moment, if I summarise, hopefully not too glibly. At the moment, if this suggests that if the petition comes in with over 500 signatures, it will be put forward to the next suitable meeting of the council, so not necessarily full council, the officers, but it will be a separate agenda item in its own right. And if it's between 50 and 199, the town clerk, mayor and the leader and relevant members, that is a bit super discretionary, isn't it?
It's a huge number, isn't it?
Yes, it's a broad spread and a broad collection of people that may or may not be called to deal with that. Over just a second. Councillor Dickinson, who shut down those.
Too late now, I was just gonna say I totally agree, Kate,
You're allowed to still agree, okay?
well, I do. That's all I'm saying, I agree, totally, yeah, far too little.
Yeah, I think a petition between 50 and 400, 499 should warrant a response from perhaps the town clerk. But I don't believe we should initiate a debate in this chamber, and actually, I think we should hire up to about 1,000 to initiate a debate in the chamber, which is roughly the half of a 2-member ward equivalent. I think that if there was an issue of such merit that this council would initiate a debate on it in the past, in any way, as we have done in the past. It's a lot different than Dorset Council. A lot of the members here sort of have an ear to the ground on localised thing, whether it's been the fairground, fireworks, whatever, we've always initiated, well, not we, because obviously I'm new. This council always initiate debates when it's sort of reacted to a large amount of public debate. So I think all people can always get in touch with their ward member, and then ward members can initiate things their own way via motions, etc. So I think 1,000 would be a suitable number personally.
Okay.
So Chair, we still have 4 people in to talk, and I was next. You sure?
Yeah.
So, the recommendation is that this goes forward to full council. What I'd like to suggest that this does go forward to full council for a wider debate, noting, and it will be in the minutes of the meeting, the discussion that took place here, because I think it's been a good discussion. So that would be my suggestion, that we note we put it forward and we note the comments that have been made. So, and that was me. The next person asking me was Councillor Furman.
Okay, so Chair, I think we've got four options in front of us. One, we just leave it, take it to full council. 2, we can take out sections 14, 15 and 16. As it is, just go for petitions of 500. We can then on top of that, which I would support, is moving it to 1,000 signatures. And the last option would be, including Councillor Weller's suggestion, that above point 14, you would change that number to 100 to 499 or 250, whatever you wanted it to be.
Okay.
But I think it seems like the key takeaway here is that we don't want it to be discretionary. I think the feeling is that we want a hard and fast rule. So I think we should try and give over that as a recommendation from this committee if we feel that, rather than getting to full council and then have to gum it up with all this kind of talk again, because we have.
Yeah.
So 2 more speakers, Councillor Furman.
I don't know if I'm taking this backwards, if you want to postpone this bit to later.
Yeah, carry on.
I'd like to talk about who is eligible for a petition. We talked about people who work in the town being eligible, whereas I feel like people who pay council tax, people who pay their precept and live in the area of Weymouth would certainly be valid in a petition. I don't see why people who live outside Weymouth town and come into work should be able to.
Good point.
I don't see that that's, I don't see why. Yeah.
I think I understand. I understand. That's what it's.
Even though I haven't said it very well, yeah.
No, that's clear. Thank you.
And the last one was from Councillor Bell.
Thank you. Yes, I think we should be making a recommendation because that's our purpose. So that we don't start this debate all over again with nearly 30 people instead of just 10 of us or whatever.
Yes.
So I think we should make a recommendation. Absolutely agree, Councillor Leary is right. But if it's a small number of people, they need to lobby their ward member and get them to carry it forward to a notice of motion and so on. So it doesn't preclude people from having a subject brought up and discussed, will simply come in a different format. So that still allows for the democratic process.
Yeah.
I understand exactly what Louise is saying about the people who pay a precept. But what about people who don't actually live in the town, but are business owners of the town, and what happens in the town is of vital importance to them and their livelihood, and they're employing people within the town and everything else. they may then be precluded. So I don't have a strong feeling about that either way, but it is something that I think we probably need to address.
I think it's worth noting, Chair, I think it's worth noting that those people have got plenty of other routes into making their voices heard. And this doesn't need to be their route. They can, you know, they can
But they can
contact
speak to
individual
the
councillors.
debate anyway.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's plenty of other ways they can do it, I don't.
Okay, shall we try and? Noted, should we try and put something together, councillor O'Leary, before I?
Yeah, I wanna try and base on what councillor Furman said, based on what I was saying and others. Can we scroll back up, please? Sorry. No, bit further down, sorry.
Down at point 14.
Stop, marvellous. Can we remove points 14, 15, 16, please?
Is that by the recommendation?
Yeah, that's what I'd like to, that's what I would like
Okay.
recommended. 50 to 499.
Ian, sorry, real quick question, sorry. Where's your version come from? Because the numbers are definitely different to what I'm getting.
I'm sure I had a different agenda for this.
Maybe you just hit enter at some point and change the paragraph.
I thought it was loosening.
No,
Haitian medication,
You're definitely.
taking LSD instead. And then back up to 14, yeah, so move 14, 15, 16, and then change 500 on point 17 to 1,000.
Okay.
Is any recommendation, Chairman, need a proposal, I need a seconder, and I just want to add one more thing, if I can, not with the wording, which is to add something that encourage people that under 1,000 to lobby their ward members, following on from what Councillor Weller said. Yeah, we are a representative democracy, we're not a direct democracy.
Councillor Brown.
Mine's just a little quick, sorry, I know I'm getting stuck on this, but where we're saying remove paragraphs 14 to 16.
On our copy it's 15,
Yeah,
16,
exactly.
17.
So in terms of what's been published to the public, the paragraph numbering.
How about remove the paragraphs relating
just
to
change-
petitions
Yeah.
for
What
fifty
is
to
the
four hundred and
master
ninety-nine
copy, is this the one, the sort of big one?
It is.
Yeah.
I personally, I appreciate that you've made the recommendation, but I think if we can agree that it's, as it is written currently, it is just people living within Weymouth.
Yeah.
I would keep it at,
I'm not gonna make it.
I would keep it at 500. Because it is just an agenda item at the appropriate meeting, and it's. You do have to go out of your way to get 500 signatures of residents. Once they've gone away and double check that they are actually all residents, it is. I don't anticipate us being inundated on a monthly basis.
Yeah,
Famous last words.
So, private account, you know.
That's quite a lot of people, isn't it? If we say 500 and full council say no, that's not enough,
Yes,
we can debate that then, can't we?
would you be happy with that, councillor O'Leary? Is it something to take to full council?
Well, I mean, I've got a proposal on there,
Okay,
wouldn't mind giving it a whack.
fair enough.
Is there a second? I'm sorry, I'm not the chair.
No, you're not. But anyone else?
Took him 1 meeting. And a chairman saying, 1 meeting.
Half an hour. Happy to second that, yes, councillor Furman, thank you. Okay, then, votes for?
Sorry, Chair, what are we, no, just,
Do we going to have any debate on the amendment?
Sorry, Chair.
just so I can confirm what you were voting for.
The removal of the paragraphs relating to petitions with 50 to 499 signatures.
Yeah.
Councillor O'Leary's proposal to increase the number
2,000.
For a threshold, petition threshold to be discussed.
Yeah, to 1,000, and then the
1,000.
first one was to encourage residents who would fall under the 1,000 to approach their ward member if they wish to initiate the debate. Such,
Yeah.
raise the matter.
We have been debating.
Yeah.
So,
Several conversations about the petition policy.
yes, bear in mind that this is a starter for 10 to take to full council, not this will be carved in stone. Councillor Weller.
May I suggest that Nikki has written quite a few notes there that gives the clerk and the deputy clerk a good guidance of what we're all saying. this can be rewritten now with reference to what we've all said, so, you know, we're all in agreement with that.
Yeah.
Those terms can be tidied up so that they're, correct and legitimate to come back to full council for the entire council to debate at that point, but we've given a fairly clear steer of what our recommendations are.
Yes.
Does that work, Ian?
I think what we've got up there now, I think it'll be useful to get sort of,
Yes.
that's what you're,
Yes.
and then we can take that forward and incorporate.
Okay. Councillor.
I was just, thank you for sorting out paragraph numbers, by the way, that's getting a bit confusing in my head. The raising it to 1,000. I can kind of see both sides of that. I can see it from my position as someone that's gone about collecting petitions before. And also from the other side, getting 1,000 is a massive effort, especially on some topics. So I'm happy with I'm happy with points 1, I'm happy with point 3. Sorry, with an amended number in a second. This idea of encouraging people to go to the ward member, yeah, great. I'm just not sure about the 1,000 as a number. It takes an awful lot of effort to get people to go out of their way to sign a thing. And I just wonder whether that threshold is too high.
That, you know, to be decided, between 500 and 1,000, to be decided, let full council make that decision, but that's our recommendation, that 50 is too few. I mean, it may be that 1,000 is too many.
Councillor Northern.
I think getting there, I'm agreeing with Councillor Bell that 500 is a reasonable number. It's been practiced. We've not had that many petitions come forward. I wouldn't want to see it increase in number particularly. So if that were the proposal, I would be voting against it. I like the idea that we take this away and make something amended to full council.
I agree, that's the point I made earlier, but to Councillor O'Leary's point, he has made a proposal, it's been seconded. So, and we were halfway through voting for it. Councillor Bell.
But I was going to suggest maybe along the lines of what Councillor Weller said, an amendment to 2. So it reads something, I don't know how to phrase this, but along the lines of full council to consider threshold number. Between a.
We can do
between a
that,
rate
or, but really just a second, or, this is, it's not a very complicated motion at the moment.
No.
If there's a bit you don't like about it, as it stands, as discussed, we have this conversation afterwards. It might be that enough people like it as it is, and we're not actually getting anywhere by continuing to discuss whether it should be 500 or 1,000. So, Councillor O'Leary, and then let's.
All committees sent, when they send up to full council, it is a recommendation, and I don't think you have to put on there to consider, because they're going to consider it anyway. This goes to full council, we're all members of full council, all of us at full council can turn around and say, it was debated, I don't feel this, so that debate can be initiated anyway. I don't think it needs an amendment to this proposal to suggest that this be debated or looked at again. So I mean, I've got the proposal on the table, and I'm if Councillor Bowman's happy to continue seconding it, then I'm going to carry on with it.
Excellent. Let's vote on that then. So
It's not binding on it.
do a quick nod. Everyone clear on what we're voting on?
Yes.
Excellent. Votes for.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay. Votes against. 3. There we go. Very done. Well done. Live democracy. Well done, everyone. Good debate as well. Thank you. Item 13 is scrutiny policy review. The big one?
No. Again, this is one that we don't got put forward, Chair. It's in the agendas. Obviously, if there's any amendments which members would like to make, then feel free. If not, we can propose it goes to full council.
Would anyone like to speak to this motion? We all talked out on petitions policy. In which case, I'm happy to propose it. Would anyone like to second it? Thank you, Councillor Weller, that we take that to full council. Votes for. Thank you all very much, much appreciated. Which leaves item 14. So it leaves item 14 is the last item. Information items. We've seen updates on the liaison roles, actions from previous meetings and the forward plan. So unless anyone would like to speak to.
I do want to speak.
No, that didn't.
Do we speak in them, sorry, do we speak in information items?
I don't know if there's a hard and
I
fast rule, but I'm happy that Castick's going to do it anyway.
No, I am indeed,
Carry on,
yeah.
Joe.
Well, quite frankly, I can't remember exactly what the word was, but when I took on this role last year, I actually contacted all the veterans organisations and asked them what they required from a liaison officer. And I think I was slightly accused of making the role more than it was. Now, quite frankly, I do all this in my own time, and if the veterans organisations choose to invite me to these things, because for the first time ever, they've got somebody that actually is listening to what they would require, I'm going to carry on. Now, I've just read about what the Armed Forces Covenant says.
I think the
What-
veterans have stopped firing shots. That's the difference, but carry on.
What's that? Well, you know, I've been very patient.
No, you go on.
The Armed Forces Covenant, I've read it and me read it and everything, and it's all right in its place, but what I found with all these veterans organisations, without fail, is that they actually want somebody to actually go along and actually listen and sort of support anything that
Yeah.
they're doing. For argument's sake, things like stores on the seafront, go along and support them, be seen as a counsellor, helping out on those kind of things. I admit the lovely things, going to their veterans lunches, talk to all the old veterans, actually somebody that's listening to them and actually hearing their stories. So anybody in this council, without fail's got any problem with that, tough.
Thank you very much. Personally, I don't,
Good,
and I'm not sure anyone
but I
around
need
this.
you to make that clear.
No, thank you, Joe, much appreciated. I'm not in a position to speak for the rest of the council, but I very much appreciate the
Well,
work
if
you do
put
with
your
our
vote in
veterans.
favour, anyone else got any objection, please put your hand up now.
It's not the way you're fixed.
Councillor back. Councillor Weller.
I will say something. First of all, I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
I really do. I think we should acknowledge that former councillor Christine James also did a very good job. She did it very differently from you, but she did a very good job and she was very involved. She didn't go quite as widely around the county, I suspect, but she did a very good job. We shouldn't forget that. My only proviso is that, yes, attending all the things you do is terrific, but when it's a big civic event, that invitation should go to the mayor.
I totally agree with that.
And you know, the veterans organisations know that, and I would just say enforce that, and I know you do. I know you do. So this isn't a criticism of
No,
any type, but
it's
it's just to note that.
Hey, yes, quickly, because they are.
Yeah,
items
very
to note.
quickly, yeah, every time I'm invited, I try to explain to them that I am very happy to come, and they won't stop me coming, but it is courteous to go through the main publicity.
Yes, we should encourage that. On the other hand, you are a free citizen of the United Kingdom. You're very welcome to attend whichever events you wish.
Well, if I'm invited, I go.
Well, yeah, that's polite.
That's it.
but yeah. Maybe not turn up if you're not invited.
I might
Thank
try.
you. No, you don't get past it. Thank you, Chair David. If it was advice, not an instruction. So let's consider those information items noted. And at 7:48, meeting.